What's going on, everybody? This is Steve DeCasa, and this is Ask Steve, Episode 2. I really only have one question, but there is a lot I could say on the subject. Once again, disclaimer, I didn't feel like setting up my audio and syncing it, blah, 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 blah. I'm probably not even bringing this file into Final Cut at all. It's just going to go right on. I'm going to trim the edges in QuickTime Player and just upload it. I'm taking some time out of editing short film right now to answer a question and pretty much go on a rant. Person in question is IMC in Galveston. Awesome. He didn't put his name. But IMC in Galveston asked this question. And it was a comment on episode 1. Great job taking the time to help people out. Question. Or he puts a question mark after question, so it's question? I don't have much money. Do any of us? And I'm looking for a great video camera that records to a card. Been thinking about the Canon 7D, and my computer disappeared. Been thinking about the Canon 7D, or I guess the little brother, the Canon T2i. He put T capital I2, Ti2, no such thing. It would be the Canon T2i, little I, capital T, little I. What would be better, or do you know something else? I get this question often from people on YouTube, from people in general. The age of DSLRs is not just restricted to the 5D anymore. It used to just be the 5D. And now lots of other cameras are out there that are more budget friendly. And the question is, which should you buy? Well, I guess I can go through the differences between all the cameras and why one would be more expensive than the other. Honestly, they're minor when it comes to the camera itself. What really is going to put your money up are lenses. Lenses can cost more than the camera. So it's best to buy the camera and have a nice lens, a decent versatile lens. And then if you're going to do a film shoot or if you're going to do a music video, and if you're familiar with lenses, you know which ones to rent. So, I mean, you could rent a lens that's up to $3,000-$4,000 and use it on your T2i. It's been done. So, it's good because you get to save money that way by renting. But it's all, I mean, you can't have a camera without a lens, so you need to at least get a lens to use it, to knock around with. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit of the history. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I've been there. I've been doing this for a while, but there might be lots of little things that I'm unaware of. But according to what I know, Canon came out with the 5D Mark II. They used to have a 5D regular. They decided to do the Canon 5D Mark II because back a little while ago, all the little point and shoots, like your Coolpix camera and the digital ELPH cameras, they recorded video. Granted, it was like 360 lines of resolution, or sometimes 480 lines of resolution, but they were cameras. Digital cameras back then started to record video. So Canon, somewhere up in Canon, decided, well, hey, we got a professional camera here that professional photographers can use. Let's throw in video. What the hell, Let's make it shoot, and we'll make it shoot HD, So they did that, and it turns out the quality looks phenomenal, and it was blowing the look of other video camcorders out of the water. Just out of the water. The size of the sensor in the 5D and the fact that you're using these real lenses give you that shallow depth of field that you just don't have with a video camera. Let's take, for instance, if you're familiar with the DVX 100, or in HD, the HVX 100, 200? I think it's HVX 200, or commonly known as the P2, the Panasonic P2. That was a very popular camera. I even shot my thesis film on it. Shot HD, it shot 720p natively, it did shoot 1080i. But it's a really good camera, it had a nice film look. But the sensor on that camera was a 3/4 inch sensor. And forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm only doing this from memory, but 3/4 inches. Do I even have a ruler around here? I must have a ruler. Hang on a second. So 3/4 inch. And I don't know if you can see this, but zoom, do this. So 3/4 inch. Let's start at 3 and go to 4. So a 3/4 inch sensor is from 3 to here. So that's how big the sensor was, 3/4 inch going diagonally. So that's how big the Panasonic DVX sensor was. And most digital cameras, most video cameras at the time, they had 3/4 inch sensors. That's just what it was. With a sensor that small, I'm out of focus again. With a sensor that small, you don't get that depth of field look. And plus, the lenses that go on the camera don't provide you with that look either, because they're good lenses, but they're stock. You know, they're not an L series lens that Canon makes specifically. It's not a $1,100 lens. The lens that's on a DVX 100 camera by itself is probably $400, $600 maybe more. But yeah, so the difference between the video cameras and these HD DSLRs is the look, the really nice shallow depth of field. Just the fact that I can do this and I'm out of focus, this and that, and the background's in focus, is a testament to these cameras. A video camera everything would be in focus. That would be in focus, and I would be in focus. Everything would be in focus. But with these, you kind of have to go back to there's an airplane. You kind of have to go back to an old school thought of filmmaking, because in film, focus is very, very, very critical. So that's the difference between video and these. So Canon decides to throw in this video. All of a sudden, it's a game changer. People start using DSLRs to shoot video only, and that blew my mind. I remember I got a job a couple of years ago at a wedding company who started shooting all 5D, and back when it was just doing video, and the look is just phenomenal. They even had a Steadicam operator, crazy high-end stuff, and it looks like a film, looks like it belongs on like a high-end TV show. It's really good. So, but the 5D, when it first came out, like I said, it was just a thing that they threw in. So it actually didn't record in the standard 29.97 frames a second. Right out of the gate, when Canon released the 5D Mark II, it recorded in 30p, just 30 frames a second, no point digital whatever. And believe it or not, I actually really liked that look. I thought that look was very unique, and it looked really cool. But a couple of months later, they released a firmware for the 5D, and they updated it, so now it records in the 29.97. Why? Because when you record audio with the, let's say with the Zoom H4n handy recorder, and if you don't know about that, you can check out my tutorial on that. But you're recording with the H4n handy recorder, that records at a certain speed. The 30 frames a second on the camera was a different speed, so you either had to speed up the audio rate, or you had to slow down the... And that was just a big pain in the ass, but that's been eliminated. If you're just starting to get into the 5D and you're Googling things, you might find that problem, but that problem's been taken care of, because of the firmware update. So, everyone starts using 5D, Mark II. And the camera, I will say, it's $2,500 for the camera alone. So, a little expensive, but about $3,000 cheaper than a video camcorder. So, you know, you grab the 5D Mark II, you grab a lens, a stock lens, maybe not an L series lens, but for around 3 Gs, you have something that looks 10 times better than what's out there, but there are limitations. A regular standard video camcorder, the P2, all those things, have XLR inputs, so you can plug microphones directly into it and record it onto the media. 5D does not, so you got to spend more money on an audio recorder. So that's another like $300 depending on what you want. So, but it's worth it because the quality's so good. So people are using the 5D, blowing things out of the water, and Canon's but people demand more. People were demanding more video-like features for it, like a histogram, which shows the levels of light and color and stuff, a visual histogram. People wanted peaking, which is a thing that video cameras have to help you focus. Manual audio levels, you know, they'd like to be able to see the audio levels on the screen as it goes, and be able to control those as you go. And for one reason or another, the 5D Mark II all these, I guess they were in development, the Canon was in development for their next camera and didn't put those in. There's hack things, or not hacks, but there's other programs you can get called Magic Lantern, which can help your 5D and turn it more into a cinema camera. But regardless, another camera came out by Canon called the 7D. And the 7D, since Canon saw the whole community of people using the 5D as a video filmmaking camera, they decided to put more features into the 7D in order to make it more film friendly. There's actually one huge thing that I consider is that the 7D can record 60 frames a second rather than 24 frames a second or 30 frames a second, really 29.97. The 5D records 30 frame mode, 24 frame mode, and it actually records a standard def mode, 640 by 480. The 7D has all three of those, as well as another 60 frame a second mode. So you're shooting 60 frames every second, so it looks very smooth. It looks very smooth. Why would you use that? The main reason I know to use it is so that in post you can turn it into slow motion, and the slow motion looks really crystal clear. There's even a software out there, there's a software called Twixtor, that if you use the camera the right way, shoot on 60 frames a second, maybe a high shutter speed, you can actually, the software can make it look super fast, almost like it's 2,000 frames per second. There's actually some really cool videos, I know, especially with BMX bikes that were shot on a DSLR, 60 frames a second, and then using the software called Twixtor, T-W-I-X-T-E-R, T-O-R, not sure. But anyway, I have a 5D, and I would love to have a cheaper camera as well that had that as well. So I'm even thinking of getting a T2i or something else, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's a great thing to do, to be able to do some slow-mo. Huge difference, boop, 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 huge difference between the 5D and the 7D. Huge difference. The size of the sensor. Now, the 5D has a full frame sensor. What does that mean? I don't know offhand, but it's full frame. It's 21 megapixels. I don't know the inches, like the 3/4 inch. I don't know the inches. It's like 2 inches. I don't know. But it's a full frame. The 7D has a smaller sensor. It has a little bit smaller sensor, therefore less megapixels. It just so happens that the 7D sensor is the same size of a 35 millimeter film camera. So they call it a 35 millimeter sensor. So in some ways, in a lot of ways, it's more like film cameras because the sensor is the same size. Now, how does that affect you? When you put a lens, let's say a 100 millimeter lens, and to show you what 100 millimeters is, I'll zoom into 100 millimeters. That's about 100 millimeters right there. And I'm about 3.5 feet away. 100 millimeter lens, right? You know what? I take that back. Let's go to something else. Let's do 50 millimeters. Let's do 50 millimeters. So at about 3.5 feet away, this is my camera is set at 50 millimeters lens. Now in the 5D, with this particular lens, because it is a full frame lens, you're getting, you know, the full 50 millimeters. What happens with the 7D, since it's a smaller sensor, when it has a lens like this that's made for a full sensor, you get a magnification, a 1.6 magnification. Now, from my personal experience, that magnification makes it look a little bit different. It's not night and day. Well, maybe it is night and day, but from my personal experience, when I see a shot that's shot in a 5D, and then the same shot, same lighting to 7D, I can tell that it's different because it just feels a little bit different. I can't say that it's less clear. I can't say that it's more grainy. There's just a different kind of look. It is kind of less clear. It doesn't pop as much because you're getting a 1.6 magnification. So if I take this lens, let's say it's a 50 millimeter lens. Let's say it's not a zoom lens. So you're watching me on the 5D at 50 millimeters. Now I'm going to plug this into the calculator. 50 times 1.6 is 80 millimeters. So you have a 5D 3 feet away, 50mm lens, this is the shot you'll get. This is your framing. With a 7D, just estimating, with a 7D, this is your shot. 3 feet away, 50mm lens. With a 1.6 magnification, you're a lot closer. 1.6, it's almost twice as close. So, there's pros and cons. I'm like wide up. Con. If you are trying to get a wide shot, it's not going to be as wide because you're getting a 1.6 magnification. If you're really trying to get this frame, you're going to have to move the camera back. Plus, this lens is the lens I'm using is a 24 to 105 millimeter. So at 105 millimeters, 105 millimeters, I'm pretty close. Now if this was a 7D, it is now, it's not a 105 millimeter, it is a times 1.6. It's now a 160 millimeter. I don't have 160 millimeter on this, but I'm assuming if it was 3 feet away at 160 millimeters, it's gonna be like there. It's gonna be like there, at 3 feet away. That's if you can focus that close on it. So what would the plus be? Let's say you're at a ball game, soccer game, football game, whatever you want. Depth of field. And you have a 7D, and you have a 200mm lens. That 200mm lens is really a, I should probably be able to do this math, 160? 320. So now you have a 7D, you have a 200mm lens, that's for a full frame camera. You put it on the 7D, you're getting a 320. So if you're at a ball game and you put that on, you can get 1.6 times closer than the 5D can. So that can come in handy. So sometimes you might see a photographer walking around with 2 cameras. You know, maybe your friend's wedding was the other day, and you see a photographer with a camera here and another camera here. Most photographers have a full frame sensor and they have a crop sensor camera, or AFS-C. Correct me if I'm wrong, but most photographers have both kinds of cameras in their arsenal, so that if they really need an extra throw, they'll get their long lens, they'll throw it on the crop sensor, you get that magnification, and you can get a closer shot. So that works. The con, in my opinion, is you're not going to be able to get as wide, you might have a constrictive place, you might be in close quarters, and you try to get you know, a wide shot with a 50, let's say you only have a 50, it's going to be pretty tight. You're kind of constricted. Another con is I just see a quality difference. I feel like, think about it, you have an image, you're trying to get a full image, and it's really just taking the middle of that image and expanding it to the rest of the thing. Whenever you zoom in on something, you lose the quality. A way around that is they have lenses called crop sensor lenses, AFS-C lenses, or EF lenses, or not EF lenses, but different, like Sigma, all the different companies, they make lenses specifically for crop sensor cameras. So if you buy a 50mm lens that's for a crop sensor camera, when you put it on, the way that the optics are inside the lens, you're getting a true 50mm. You're not getting an 80. But those lenses, those AFS-C lenses, those crop lenses, do not work on a 5D, do not work on a full frame camera. So what's the point of buying it? Big thing about lenses is that they're a good investment, because if you take care of them, their value doesn't really depreciate over time. In fact, vintage lenses can sell for a lot of money. You know, someone might say like, oh, I've got a 1974 Canon 24 1.4, and for some reason that year those lenses just look great, they stopped making them. So lenses go a long way. So why would you buy a lens that's made specifically for a crop sensor camera? You can't use it on anything but crop sensor cameras. So I feel like those lenses would depreciate more over time. It would be less of an investment, because you can only use those lenses on certain cameras, whereas you can use a full frame lens on any camera. Yes, when you put it on a crop sensor, it'll zoom in, it'll give you a magnification, but at least it works everywhere, you know? In fact, it can be a plus when you put it on the 7D. So that's just my thought on that. Now that you know the differences between the cameras inside, what about the software of the cameras? And the other ones, we're talking the T2i and the 60D. A lot of people are talking about the 60D. The 60D, the T2i, both those cameras, and I'm not too sure about the T3i because that just came out, but I'm assuming the T3i. But at least I know that the T2i and the 60D both have the exact same sensor as the 7D. It's pretty much the same brain. The difference between 7D, T2i, 60D, a couple of things. One, the software inside, the way you use it, especially the T2i. The T2i is very limited. Whereas with the 5D, you can dial in all your ISOs. And I could probably show you by showing you my monitor here. This might be a little weird, but yeah, that's going to be weird. But if I go to ISO, down here, I can dial in all these different ISOs. I can do auto, 100, 125. I have many different levels of ISO. Maybe you can see that. Right now I'm on 1250. Also, I can't do it while I'm recording, but white balance. I can dial in my white balance. So like when you have when you're trying to do your color, I can literally dial in the Kelvin. So if it's 4400K out, I can put 4400K. I can go from about 2500K to 10,000K or 9,000K. And that just has to do with color temperature in the camera. The T2i doesn't give you that option. The T2i has presets. You're either going to have to put it on a cloudy preset, indoor preset, fluorescent preset, I don't know, nighttime preset, maybe outdoor nighttime preset, something like that. And there is a custom, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but there's no dialing in. I can't put it on the white balance, scroll it up to 37, go, that's a little too blue, you know, go down a little bit more, 32, that's a little bit better. You know, I can't really adjust it. That's the T2i. The 60D has both those options. The ISO, all those different intervals, and it has the other one. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, and it has the white balance. So the 60D, awesome. I really like the 60D. Another good plus about the 60D is it has a flip-out screen. So right now, like, I'm connected to a monitor, as you just saw, so I can see my frame. Whereas if I didn't have an HDMI cable to a monitor, I could just flip out the LCD screen and do something like this very easily. But once again, the 60D and the T2i are crop sensor cameras. So they're going to give you that 1.6 magnification. Interesting note, I heard from a film person, it's been a while since I've worked on film, and even though I have worked on film last year over the summer, there's things I don't know about the cameras, but from what I hear, you know, I worked on a 35mm film, the lenses have that same magnification. So the 7D, 60D, and the T2i have more in common with a film camera than the 5D. The 5D is like an anomaly because the 5D is a full frame sensor. You're getting the full frame of everything and you're able to squeeze that into a 1080 image. So I like that. I'm happy with my purchase of the 5D because of those reasons, and the fact that it is the best one. It is the 5D, you know. I feel like the look of it is clearer than the 7D, so that's why I picked it. But it is the most expensive. I had a video camera already. I bought it about a year out of college, and use it for lots of things. But I was never satisfied with the look of it. I never felt like I could make real films with it. When these came out, it changed the game for me. I really felt like I could make something worthwhile. So I sold that camera, which was a big investment. All said and done, it was around $5,000. I mean, the camera itself was $3,500. I had a tripod was like another $800. You know, all the tapes that I've used all over the place on it, those mini DV cassettes. I bought wireless lavaliers, you know, I bought it all at one time. It was an investment. It's an investment, but this is my life. This is what I do. I do freelance videography, freelance filmmaking, DP, editing. I have a gig in Stamford, Connecticut all next week. I'm going to be syncing footage shot on the Red, and I've never worked with Red footage before, so that's really awesome. I'm learning a lot about it. And this is what I do. But I understand that there are people out there that have a budget. And in fact, I would love to get maybe the 60D or the T2i just so I could be able to do the slow-mo. Another difference between the 7D and the 60D and the T2i, 7D shoots on CF cards. Now I'll get one for you. Come on. Alright, so 7D and the 5D shoot on CF cards. This is what they look like. I have a 16 gigabyte. I have a 16 gigabyte here. The one in the camera is a 32 gigabyte. Now they're a bit expensive. The 16 gigabyte will run you around $100. A video, it gives you about 45 minutes of video for a 16 gigabyte. The 32 gigabyte, which is in the camera, is around $200, and it'll get you about double. It'll get you about 90 minutes of video. So that's good. Actually, there's a store in New York City called Adorama, A-D-O-R-A-M-A, and a little while ago they had a special, 2 16 gigabyte extreme flash cards for like 150 bucks or 120 something bucks, so I saved a lot of money. But I have 4. I have a 32 gig and I have 3 16 gigs, and I think I did the total. That's around 2.5 or almost 3 hours of footage total. The thing about these cameras also, as compared to the old video cameras, they're still around, but another thing is these cameras, like film, they run out eventually. You can only record about 11 to 12 minutes at a time. I think it's because there's a file size limit, or it has to do with the amount of data that can transfer to the CF card, but you can only do around 12 minutes max at a clip. So it kind of sucks if you're doing a live event, a wedding or something like that. You really got to figure out how you're going to edit it. You really need to get cutaways and things to cover your edits because you have to stop recording. Or maybe if you have 2 cameras, you can make sure somehow that one of them's rolling while the other one's not. And then, you know, figure that out later. But, so the 7D and the 5D record on the flash cards are a little expensive. Whereas the T2i and the 60D record on SD cards. This is an 8 gigabyte. And yeah, I would suggest getting a bigger capacity. They sell these in 16 gigabyte as well. There's a certain number. I don't know if you can see it. See this 2 right here? That's kind of like half circled. That has to do with the category of card. So 2, since I use this to record audio, 2 is like a slower bit rate. You want to get like a category, don't hold me to it, but like a category 8, I think, or a 10. 10's like the highest. I think 8 or 5, it's 5 or 6, between 5 and 10. Would be the ones you want to record video on. Do a little Google search and you'll probably get a lot of mixed answers, but the most expensive would be 10, and it's the fastest bit rate. And what I mean by bit rate is basically the speed at which data can be written to the card. So I'll take this back out. These cards that I love these cards. They're expensive, but you get what you pay for, especially when it comes to media. You can't be fucking around when it comes to media. You have to make sure you have it, and you have to make sure these do not fail. Because if you're doing a live event or even a film in a crucial part, you do not want your media to fail. And so I say spend the money, you know. So this guy is 60 megabits per second. They say, Canon says that 30 will work fine, but I've never had a problem with these. Okay, I know we're dragging on a little bit, but you should be taking notes. One other huge thing. Now, I'm not too sure about this with the 60D or the T2i, but one huge con for the 7D. Write this down as a huge con. especially if you're going to do live events or something where you have to be recording for a long period of time, the 7D tends to overheat. Okay, what does that mean? You'll be shooting, you're outside in the hot sun, camera's heating up because it's recording for 12 minutes, stop, another 12 minutes, stop, another 12 minutes. You can feel it getting hot, your hands are on it, heating it up too. A little symbol comes up on the side, looks like a thermometer, and it's red, and it's blinking. A blinking red thermometer means it's overheating. If it's up there for too long, your camera shuts off. So if you're shooting a wedding, the most important shot of the day is the vows. I take you to be my whatever. If that thing's going off, you're shitting your pants, especially if you're the only cameraman there. So for live event stuff, I really would say go against the 7D, unfortunately, even though it's a good camera and it looks really good. Mind focus here. There we go. Because what the hell happens when the most important shot is ruined by the camera? You're not getting it because the camera overheats. And there's nothing you can do. You have to shut the camera off. What I like to do is I like to take the memory card out, blow inside the camera if you have your blower to get some coolness in there. Sometimes I put it on the card on the back of my neck to cool it down. And it's warm. It's pretty warm. But that is one of the scariest things that can happen to you owning a 7D. I can't say if that happens with the 60D or the T2i. It's a huge flaw that the 7D has. But I should do some research and I should find out. I have a buddy, or more than one buddy, who owns the 60D. And it might happen. So I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. So all in all, told you lots of differences between the three types of cameras, 5D, 7D, 60D, T2i. Told you lots of differences between them. There's actually a new series of cameras coming out, Panasonic and Sony's cameras, to battle the 5D and the DSLRs. They call them the 35mm sensor cameras. It's a video camera, just like the P2, with all your settings, with peaking, with all that good stuff, with the XLR inputs, but it's a 35mm sensor and it has interchangeable lenses. I have not used anyone yet. The Sony one is called the FS100 or something to that effect, and the Panasonic one is called the AG Mamma Jamma. I forget. But they're out there. They're calling them the 35mm cameras. And you can get an adapter to put Canon lenses on it. Whether you can control them from inside the camera, or do you have to get ones that have a manual iris, I don't know. But I have seen some test footage. If you go to B&H, they have test footage lying around of these cameras. They look damn good. I'd love to try a production with them, especially the fact that you don't need to really sync audio. That'd save some time. And if you can get the same quality without having to sync audio, that would save some time. It would save a lot of post-production time. But it's good to learn those things in case you need to. So basically, I haven't yet to use those. But so which should you get? Obviously, the cheapest one is the T2i. Unfortunately, the T2i is about $900 in a kit with a pretty cheap lens. I think it's like the 18 to 55, the cheapest one they make. I'm not sure if that lens is a crop lens. It might not be. So it's not an 18 to 55. It's a 30 to 82.5, 83. But regardless, you know why that is now. But so obviously the T2i is the cheapest. T2i is the most limitations though. Yes, it's the same sensor as the 7D. It'll give you the same image as a 7D, but you have less options to work with. If that bugs you, if you're a super professional and you really want the 640 ISO as opposed to the 800 ISO, then you might want to go to the 60D. Believe it or not, there are certain ISOs that for video are better to use because they're actually less noisy. Like for instance, I'm on the 1250 ISO right now because it's less noisy than the 800 one. Why that is, I don't know. If you're interested in finding out what those magical ISOs are, let me know. But it's best to stay on those. So with the T2i, you can't stay on those magical ISOs. I think there's 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, 2500. There's no 125, 160, 250, 320. 500, they have 640. They have 800, no, 1250. Yeah. Once again, well, with the 60D there is. The 60D is something like $1,300, $1,200. They might sell packages where you can get a package with a decent lens. I say buy a cheap lens to begin with. You know, you're still learning the camera. You can still make things that look pretty good to the layman. But my lens that I bought when I first got the camera was a 28 to 135, and it was a 3.5 to 5.6. So completely wide, f3.5, completely zoomed in, 5.6. So not very good with the light. But then shortly after that, I bought a 51.4. So whenever I was in super low light situations, I bought a 51.4, open that aperture up, and not only do you get super crazy depth of field, but you can see in the dark pretty much. So that's what I have. But I just recently bought a 24 to 105 f4 L series lens. It's also image stabilizer, so it's a great lens. It's not super fast, so in dark situations I'm kind of, but it's a good lens for, it's a good versatile lens, and it's L, so what can I say? So T2i, really good if you don't care about those magical ISOs or the white balance being perfect. You know, maybe you can fix it later. The 60D is probably my best recommendation. It's a little more expensive. It's $1,200 something. If you're really spending all this money, you might as well get the 70 because it has all the features. It's a great camera. Can't think of much else. If you really have the money, get the 5D. And then get a T2i to do slow-mo and stuff. But once again, it's really... Also, you have to realize that just getting these cameras, this is a big thing, just getting these cameras and getting a lens will not make you a master cinematographer. I'm not calling myself a master cinematographer, but it kind of scares me, and it scares lots of cinematographers out there when they see the tools of the trade being so readily accessible to everybody out there. A little out of focus. So, you know, you could give a paintbrush to anybody. Will they be able to paint a masterpiece? No. They're going to have to practice and learn. So if this is something that you really care about and you really find a lot of passion, practice and learn. I consider every shoot that I'm on practicing and learning. I'm nowhere near a master cinematographer, but I learn a little bit more as I go, and I've been doing this for a while, so I have lots of tips and tricks and things like that help me out. But I'm always willing to learn and find out crazy new things and things I didn't know. So do it. If you're really passionate about it, spend the money, get the lens, learn how to use it, make some creative stuff, you know? Make some creative stuff. And please, if I was able to help you, thank me when you get an Academy Award. That'd be very nice. But, alright, I believe I've ranted for quite a long time now. Probably a long 40 minutes like usual. But okay, I'm Steve DeCasa. This has been Ask Steve, Episode 2. Please comment, you know, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ask me some questions. Post a video response. Post some video questions. That'd be awesome. Looking to grow my channel a little bit more. So, I'm Steve DeCasa. Happy editing, happy filmmaking, happy cinematographying, and peace.